So we can start.
Yeah, sure. You
Okay.
got sick yesterday?
Yeah, I've been on Vader's concert and it was so freaking cold. It was like 8 degrees
Okay, yeah.
on the outside. So I think I'm gonna spend the next week in bed.
Okay, that's okay.
But it's Napalm Records curse because previous time when Lisa scheduled some interviews, I got COVID. So still an improvement. So Ex Deo focuses on the history of the Roman Empire. So when did your fascination with this historical period started?
Well, I'm already like origins are from Italy, so like my family is born there, and I grew up around it all my life. So it was always something that was part of normal, everyday life for us. But I really got more into it, focused as I studied more about it and got into the whole experience of studying the history, of all the stuff that happened, because I'm very into history, and also things of the past, kind of dictate the future. So for me, it's like important to dig in it, and got really into it when I start seeing all these other bands doing stuff like Viking stuff and all this stuff, and I felt that the most important and brutal empire was never covered. And I thought Ex Deo was the time for it to come out, and do something like a movie soundtrack meets death metal, and bring it to a different level. So that's what we did. That's what brought me to do it more.
And how does the exploration of the topic look like for a particular album? Do you read some articles on Wikipedia? Do you read the books, watch movies?
I no, I mean, Wikipedia is very misleading. Sometimes it's written by everybody, so it can have good stuff, but it also has some things that are false. So basically, for me, it's been always an important factor to to explore the real things of it. So I read a lot of books, a lot of podcasts about it, and I really follow Beard. It's like she's a great historian from the UK, and she's very accurate with her findings, and I study a lot of her books and things like that. So I try to really dig into the most realistic stuff. Now, some things are mythological that I think are not proven, but to me makes sense to put into a metal record because it just makes it crazier and cooler. So we add both worlds, in Ex Deo. So that's the idea.
And why did you decide to devote an entire album to Nero? What is so special about that figure?
I think he's the most metal figure in the world because so many things he's done is like for me are absolutely in focus with that stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you really think about it, you look at the term Antichrist, for example, that comes from him. It's like because he was the biggest persecutor of Christians in that era of time. They were considered a cult back then, so he wanted to eliminate the threat, and that's he was crazy with them. And also the inverted crosses that you see everywhere. Inverted crosses are not just invented by metalheads. That came from the time of Nero because the people that he was persecuting didn't want to die the same way as Jesus. So they said that, so he decided to invert the crosses. I'll crucify you anyways, but I'm going to invert the crosses. So basically, that's where that comes from, and it blended into metal because the metalheads took that symbol into the satanic world and all that stuff. They took that symbol as an act of rebellion because that's what the person was rebelling against, the fact that they didn't want to die like Jesus. So it has this rebellion factor and gets moved into time, and that's why all these symbols are coming from the Nero era. So there's nothing more metal than this.
So on one of the previous albums, you devoted an entire album to Caligula. So are madmen and psychopaths more interesting than great leaders?
Yeah.
In Romulus, we've got Octavian August and Caesar, and in the Immortal Wars, we've got the second Punic War.
Yeah, and we got so look, 1,000 years of history. There is so much to talk about: evil characters, good characters, heroic characters, battles that were killed 100,000 soldiers. There's so much to talk about in the Roman history that I kind of like to go, into a character and then go into a different era of like Scipio and Carthage and Hannibal, you know, and then move around a little bit. There's so much. There's Attila. There's so much to talk about in the Roman Empire that, but you know, you can't be an Ex Deo and not do an album about Nero or Caligula. These are two of the most notorious, you know, emperors that ever lived and extravagant. And so for me, it was, you know, a no-brainer to at least touch that subject. We will go in more deep, darker elements in the future, which will be less popular than, let's say, a Nero or something like that. So we will explore more deep stuff. Now I'm introducing still the band, so I need to get people to understand what it is, you know, what we're talking about. You say Nero and people are like, oh, I know that, you know. There's a coffee shop down the road called Nero, you know.
Well, thanks to the novel of Henryk Sienkiewicz, our Nobel Prize winner in literature, the character of Nero is very well known in Poland and
Okay,
like abroad.
okay, yes, awesome.
So abroad, people abroad know who the Nero is, like in Poland.
Yes, yeah, it's everywhere. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody thinks about the, you know, Rome burned and he played the fiddle and all this stuff and the Christian persecutions and how crazy he was when he killed all the senators, like I did in the video Imperator. We do the dining session and that he actually did things like that. So to take revenge on the elite, you know. So he was a commoner in the sense of he liked the people, you know. He was an artist. He was a musician. He didn't want to be an emperor. So he hated all of the elite and all the power hungry people. So you know, Tacitus, which is the guy that wrote all about this stuff, that told the people about him, was very pro-elite. So of course he would paint the picture of Nero as being this crazy guy, and because they hated him, he was anti-establishment. So you know, he was more for the. He gave a lot to the people, and they didn't like that. You know, they wanted to keep their money, their lands, and all that stuff. The elite. So he was kind of more in line with the way we think than them, you know, and they hated the fact he wanted to be a musician or an actor, you know, or poet. They hated that. He says that's only for the prisoners and people like that in that time. You know, the artists were not well looked at. So you can't be an emperor and be a musician. They were like, that's crazy. And he was like, fuck you. He forced them to listen to him in the arena. They forced them, and if they didn't like it, he would get them whipped, you know. So there's some cool factors about Nero, you know.
And when did you start working on the sequel to the Immortal War? Did it came out during the pandemic downtime, or did you plan this record before?
Yeah, well, you know, we did the Cataclysm record, you know, that was already finished before the pandemic, and we had the video done, everything, and we sat on it for a little bit, but then decided to release it because there's no end in sight with this pandemic, and people needed music, so we decided to do it. And then again, you know, no touring. So because of no touring, we had a lot of time on our hands. So I decided to right away switch and do the Ex Deo record because it was already 3 years between time frame of Immortal Wars and this one. So we decided to do the record because we had the time. So it got written most of 2020 when we were, you know, like let's say the second half of 2020 and into a little bit of 21, we recorded the album. So it's fresh in the sense of writing it, you know.
So were there any problems along the way? Because I've read that Jean-Francois had a COVID during the
Yes,
session.
yes.
So were
So
there any problems?
well, you know, he got it in between the records, so he actually had it really hard, and it affected him very heavily. I don't, you know, like it affects everybody differently. You know, you can have the sniffles and that's it, or you can be in a hospital. So for him, he was affected pretty heavy, but he was okay. Never went to the hospital. He beat it, and but it did delay things. You know, he took him a good 3 weeks to a month to get over it, you know, so it was not an easy thing for him, you know, but now he's bulletproof, you know, so he has the antibodies.
Well, I had only a sniffle, and for the entire time of isolation, I was sitting and playing Diablo.
So yeah. So you didn't have you only had the sniffles, that's it?
Yeah.
That's okay, a little flu. Nothing more.
And how was it with the single "The Philosopher King," which you released in March? After all, it's not a song tied to a major album. So
No,
something happened.
we covered this time a good emperor, that did a lot of philosophical things that changed the world in a way of viewing it. So I think one song was enough to cover him, and we needed something. We wanted to release a standalone single just to kind of announce that we're working on something. So it did really well also, and it was out there, and obviously no touring can do much, if you're not touring for something. So we hope that we can get a good position into touring again, because now to go to Europe is too difficult. It's like we just came back with Cataclysm. We did an open air in Switzerland. We were one of the only bands from North America to play Europe, so we came, we did it, it was fine. But we always had the worry about if somebody gets something there, we can't come back home. And that's the problem, So with touring, we have plans to bring the whole theatrical aspect of Rome live. But to do that, we have to have a really good time frame with this disease being at least in control, So we have to wait a little bit, but we have plans for it.
So the cover artwork of your second album was designed again by Sepsira Anton. So what attracts you to his work?
Well, there's a good connection between Caligula and Nero, so we wanted to kind of keep the vibe the same. Also produced by JF, both records, so it has the same type of feeling, and we wanted to kind of continue that. And I mean, Seth is one of my great friends. I consider him a brother, and we've been working together for so long. I managed Septic Flesh for over 10 years, and so we are already like good friends, and there was no other guy I would want to do an artwork than him for this. He did a great job. Although Eliran Kantor is great, Immortal Wars is one of the nicest artworks we have. He's awesome. Also, his style for this was more for Seth. He's able to make the macabre come to life, and that's what I wanted. So.
Yeah, his work are very sinister.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but he's a little bit sinister also.
So the vinyl version has a different cover than the CD. So where did you get the idea for something like that? Do you want the fans who buy different versions of an album to have something special?
It's not based on the sales. It's to give a different look to something more than anything. The artwork with the inverted crosses, really represents what Nero was. So for me, it was kind of like, you have kind of like when they crucified Jesus, you got the three crosses. So we decided to do it kind of a symbolism type of thing with rebellious edge. It's more about giving a different look to something, not repeating too much the same things, and it gives fans a chance to like get something more collector. So that was the idea behind it, not more than that.
So I've read, however, that there were some problems with the availability of the vinyls. So is the situation under control now?
Yes, it's arriving finally this week. It's gonna come here any day. It's been a big problem worldwide because of the lacquer that you use to do vinyls. The product comes from China, so this is an issue now for producing vinyls worldwide for all bands. So everybody, all the releases now, if you do an album, you must wait 6 months for production of vinyl. So it's getting crazy, and they've estimated that they will go up to 1 year in the future. It's because of this problem. So we are 2.5 weeks delayed from the album release, which is not bad compared to many bands. So this is a big problem right now for production. And you're going to all kinds of different countries to produce, like usually, let's say Nuclear Blast, Napalm would do it in Germany or somewhere there. Now they're going to Canada, they're going to Poland, they're going to all kinds of different places where they do vinyl just to get it done. So it's a big problem. So vinyl will be more and more rare, unfortunately. So
Only for the biggest collectors.
only for the biggest collector that have patience to wait.
So the entire CD starts with Claudius' speech. So where does it come from? Is it from the BBC series from the 70s?
Sorry, I didn't hear
The
it.
Claudius speech that started the entire new album.
Yeah, it's from the movie I, Claudius from the 30s. I think it was made 40s or something like that. I don't remember. And I just I love that speech because he, he was always taken as a guy that was infirm, like he was like sickly and handicapped. And they didn't, in the Senate, when they eliminated Caligula, they put him in power because they thought they can control him, but he was actually very smart and intelligent. He was actually a good emperor that did a lot of good things for all of Rome and everything, and the wars and all that stuff. And the speech is important because it shows his views about stopping corruption, stopping all the people that are there to profit from the people of Rome, and he wanted to reinstate it. And then the music comes, and that's not going to happen, you know. And it has this really dark feeling, and then the first riff comes, and it's super evil, and it's like that's it, he's gone. So here comes Nero. It's kind of the introduction to him. So I think it was really well placed, and it was a good soundbite, that we could get out.
So over the years, many guests have appeared on Ex Deo records. For example,
Yeah.
Carl Sanders, Stefan Fiori, Maria Angela de Murtas. So the latest release features Brittany Hayes of Unleash the Archers. So
Yeah.
how was this collaboration born?
Well, also another good friend of mine. I work with her also with Unleash the Archers, and for me, she's one of the best female vocalists right now in the world for metal. She's like the female Rob Halford, So I thought that she would be great for the position of Boudica for the song because it's a female fronted warrior, and I thought she was perfect for the role. She did a great job. She's the only person I asked for this album. There was not really space for anybody else because we had it covered very well. But for this, I needed a good female vocalist and somebody that has attitude, and she was the right one.
And how did you recruit Nergal from Behemoth for the Ex Deo debut
A
album?
long time ago from a long time ago in Romulus album on Storm the Gates of Alesia. So we were touring together, and I said, hey man, I'm doing this project, and what do you think? You want to be on it? And he was like, yeah, send me the things. And I sent him the vocals, and then he did two different versions. One was just making fun, like just fucking around because Nurgle is like that. And then the other one was the actual soundbite, and then that was really well done. It was cool to have him on it. And the famous words of Caesar, at the end.
So going back to the new release, the album was promoted by interesting singles because first we got the introduction of Nero in the Imperator, then we've got the previously mentioned Brittany in Boudica, and then Head of the Snake with Agrippina. So we have three different characters. So why such a selection of tracks?
It's like we, the important thing in this is the way the songs are sequenced because we didn't want to release something too similar to each other right away. And I thought that releasing Boudica in second was a very diverse song from Imperator because Imperator is very straightforward. It's very death metal, with the big riffs and the big chorus and all that. And Boudica is more intricate, so it has a little bit of that with the clean vocals. And we wanted to showcase the record moves a lot because this album is not, if you listen to Imperator, the whole album is not like that. So it fits with Claudius. It fits with let's say the Ninth at Colundulum and all that songs like that. It fits together. But then you have a different aspect of the album where Fiddle in the Fire, What Others Dies in Me, and let's say Boudica are on a different spectrum because they're more orchestral. There's more dynamics in those songs, so it's a different vibe. So we wanted to move them around. Head of the Snake is more of a mid-pace type of track that's very psychological, because of this mother that takes over. So all the three characters are rebellious characters that are all in it for. One is in for survival, Boudica. The other one is more of a conspiracy with the mom. And then obviously the introduction of Nero we had to do Imperator as the first one.
So the video for the Imperator is a reminiscence of Da Vinci's The Last Supper. So
Pretty much.
considering the fact that the Nero was called the Antichrist, I understand it was a conscious artistic decision.
Correct. And it was very difficult to do that video. It was a difficult video because we had to do it in the US. And in the US, it's difficult to explain how this is and to have everything authentic as possible. Still was not 100% because it was impossible for me to do it here. Usually I do my videos in Serbia I go to Europe to do everything. You know, I here it's difficult. Or I want to maybe try one day Group at 13 in Poland. It will be great. I think they can do some good work for me. So there's a lot of you know, things to think about. This was in Atlanta, which I live in Florida now, so it was like a good 6-hour drive for me to go there. It was close, but I had a great director, but have to reproduce Rome in Atlanta, Georgia is difficult. So we pulled it off. I think the video came out really well, and you know, the blood is there. It's like it's almost like a Argento type of, you know, horror movie flick, you know. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dario Argento's movies.
yeah. So we went in a little bit of that vibe, you know.
So very impressive on the 13 years of Nero are the orchestrations by Clemens Diaz. So
Yeah.
the musician has already appeared on the previous album, The Immortal World. So
Yeah.
how did this whole cooperation started with him?
Again, another good friend of mine, Clemens, is a genius in my opinion. He's one of the best soundtrack guys out there. You know, you have different levels. You know, you have guys that are more classical, like the guys from Flesh God Apocalypse are very classical oriented, piano and all this stuff. And then you have guys that can you know, orchestrate a real orchestra and command it like Christos of Septic Flesh. But then you have a guy like Clemens that can do horror stuff. He can do soundtracks for movies in a different way, you know. And the thing is with him, we have a very good chemistry together about him understanding what I want, you know. And with this project, Nero, it was about the psychological aspect of Nero. So we had to bring the orchestra into the music, into the lyrics, had to flow with what's going on song to song, because every song is in chronological you know, position. So it's really a story that goes all the way to the end. So he had to come in and like, so that's why when you hear sometimes the music is twisted, like you hear pew, 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 like that crazy stuff, is because he's losing his mind, you know. And it's like, so we kind of project, we portray that in the music. So that's very difficult to do with the lyrics going chronological, you know. So that was the challenge, but he did it like this because he's that good, you know. He's also doing right now DC Comic Batman soundtrack for the magazine that's coming out. They did a soundtrack that's out. He did that, so he's just a very good you know, composer, you know, for that stuff. So he, you know, if you look at what he did here and then what he did on Immortal Wars, they're two different battle scenes, you know. So you know, so we're happy with him, and we have a very good chemistry at the moment. Also, Jeremy from Venom Inc. is on drums on this album, and he brings this very military type of, you know, of striking the drums. You know, simple but well, you know, power, with a lot of power, and that's what we wanted. You know, not too complicated, because then it takes over everything else. So this was a very important factor for us. You know.
I've seen that on Collector's Edition there is a bonus CD with all the orchestrations. So are you
Correct.
planning to release it maybe digitally?
This will be an idea. So basically, that CD is not the same as what you hear on the album. So basically, the album has a version that is with the guitars, obviously, and everything. This version is orchestra only, but it's different. There's additions in it. So some things are longer. There's different ambience happening. So it's a completely different soundtrack. So this is a soundtrack you can put it in the, you know, get a glass of wine and a candle and just chill, and you're gonna be in Rome, you know. So that's the idea of this one, Symphonies of the Antichrist, it's called, and it's just Clemens doing his thing, you know.
So Clemens has clearly left his mark on the two of the four
Of
albums of
course.
Ex Deo.
Yeah.
So and yet he's not a member of the group. Why is that?
I mean, you know, he is. We consider him a member of the band. It's just that he can't tour as much with us, you know, because he's you know, doing a lot of his own things with Karakangren. That's very busy. So we can't expect him to come with Ex Deo every time. So that's why he's not kind of on the lineup, you know.
And you recently returned from a tour. So how
Yeah.
did you feel returning to the stage after such a long time?
It was very, very cool. In the beginning, it was very, you know, how do you say, stressful, because it's completely different now. When you go out on tour, it's not the same. The fans also, you can tell that they're not like before. They're still, this is a fucked up time. You can tell, that's their first time coming back to a concert. It was a Deicide Cataclysm tour that we had planned and waited and waited, and then me and Glenn decided this is the time to strike in August, and we were the first tour to finish the tour completely with no damages. So we did the whole thing, and it was sometimes it was rough because all the fans come to the bus, to give you the hand, and we're like, holy shit, maybe we get this virus. But we were very careful. Our bus was a bubble, we protect the bus with everybody in it, and we were able to pull the tour. So it was good, especially on the last day when we decided, fuck, we did it. It was like the first tour to finish since the pandemic began in the US. And that was a big inspiration for more tours. So now a lot of bands are going out, doing, oh, if they survived, we can do it. So.
And you finally promote that album because it was released a year ago in the middle of the pandemic outbreak.
Correct. And then I think a lot of people attach themselves to that album because of that. And then when we played the songs live, they were like, yes, I remember being home, fucked up, closed down, with this stuff. So it was a good experience. There's still a lot of work to be done as far as like making sure that things get smoother, and with, I don't know, now with all the regulations, who knows how the fuck it's gonna go. It's like every day it's something new. So this thing is far from gone. I think we have at least another year of bullshit to go through, so we'll see, you know, everybody
You
else.
have a European tour planned together with Flash God Apocalypse, so is it going to happen?
Not for Ex Deo. It was planned this year, and now they pushed it to a fall of 2022. At the beginning, we thought we could do it, but now because of all the regulations for us to come back into America, it's very difficult and risky for us to be out for 6 weeks. It's too long. If it was shorter, maybe, but because it's so long, it's too much risk. It goes all over Europe, and the risks for us to get something or have problems to return is too high. So, hopefully by next year things are better and they have some sort of therapeutics or some different rules, and then we will plan a new thing. But Flesh God's still doing the tour. They're gonna have a different support the next day. Unfortunately, they're again good friends of mine. And we had to take a decision, and that was the best one for us, at least for next year. It's right now we're planning Europe only to do open airs because it's in and out stuff and it's easier.
And did you talk with Francesco? Because we all held our breath
Yes.
when we heard about his accident. So
Yes,
is he feeling better?
yes, I keep in a good touch with him. We discuss a lot of different things together, and because we do also some work together, and he's much better. Operation was very complicated, and they had to fix his elbow, which was shattered. But he will be back. But it will take him a couple of months of rehabilitation. But he'll be back
And
stronger.
I've also seen that you have a new project called Invictus. So what is it?
Well, it's a new project that I had because I had time during the pandemic to do something more personal. It's going to be a more thrash-oriented death metal still, but a bit more modern than Cataclysm, and it's going to have some clean vocals as well in it. It's more urban type of feeling to it. But imagine, I don't know, some Fear Factory in there, some Machine Head, and maybe some different type of elements with death metal mixed together. So that's coming out next year. We're actually working on the record right now. So we will probably finish it by the end, I would say the end of October or November, something like that will be finished. So then next year we'll release it. That's a new thing. We'll see how it goes, but we really like it. I think it's very catchy, and we'll see. We'll see.
And any plans with Cataclysm regarding the new album? Are you planning something?
Again, Europe too difficult. We are planning a tour again in the US in January, February. We are talking to some things that we've planned. We can't say it yet because we are not allowed to, but it's up. We're supposed to release some information very soon about that. So we're concentrating more here because we can, and then Europe festivals, and then we'll see. We'll see. But I think Cataclysm will tour less and less in the future. We'll do more like short runs, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We will do festivals, things like that. We've been working for 30 years with Cataclysm, so we want to kind of slow it down a little bit and concentrate more on quality over quantity.
And do you have any ideas in your head for the next story from Ex Deo? Maybe the year of the five emperors or something like that?
This is a plan. This is a plan, and there will be a new Ex Deo release before New Cataclysm. I can tell you that. So we are concentrating a little bit more on Ex Deo now for the next few years.
And that's all that I have prepared. So thank you very much for your time. And you can say something to Polish fans of both Ex Deo and Kataklysm.
We miss you all in Kurwa Mash. Hope to see you all.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and see you on the tour maybe.
Thank you. Yes, hopefully, my friend. Thank you so
Hopefully.
much for your support. Talk to you soon. Get better.
Thanks.